Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hobart, where we strive to put love at the center of how we show up in the world. I'm Rachel Kay, your worship associate this morning. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today our worship services will be led by our minister, Reverend Cathy Harrington. Go Cathy, go Cathy. Since not everyone can attend in person, we are streaming this worship service online, and we extend a special welcome to all who are joining us virtually. Another way that we walk together is by joining together for fun and fellowship. In the interest of time, if you have an announcement to share, please send it by email to Ashley in the office by Wednesday afternoon. Look for our weekly Spark for more announcements. And if you don't receive the Spark, you can fill out a visitor form in the parish hall. So every other Tuesday, we have a needlework that'll be February 10th, needlework class at 11 a.m. All are welcome. Bring your current project or learn how to knit or crochet. Sounds so fun. And coming up this Thursday, there's UU History 101, February 12th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Reverend Cathy leads a series of 7 classes. Week 2 topic is a question of love, and they're self-contained, so if you missed one, you can be happy coming to the next ones, because it doesn't matter if you go in order. And next week, we have a fundraising meeting, February 15th, after coffee hour, about 1 p.m. If you have any ideas to help us raise funds for the church, especially about how to reach more outsiders, please plan to attend. And for more information, see Roz Davila. Also, Breeze and Google Chats training and refresher, February 15th and 22nd, 10 a.m. Please bring your laptops and get a login before class if you don't have one to expedite things. If you're a committee chair or involved with a team, please plan to attend. Cheryl Powell and James Johnson will also be available after coffee hour to answer any questions. And now, please take a moment to greet your neighbors. And really greet them. Say hello to someone you don't know. Bonjour. Now please turn off or silence your devices, and as you do, allow yourself to enter sacred time together. Take a deep breath, and another, and join in the spirit of reverence.
Thank you. Each week during our Sunday service, we join in reciting the words of our affirmation, printed in your affirmation of faith, printed in your order of service, or found on the screen. Please join with me. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. This is our great to dwell from peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Beautiful. The flaming chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It suggests the transformations that take place when we are held within religious community. When we light the chalice in worship, we illuminate a world that we feel called upon to serve with love and a sense of justice. Please join us in lighting our chalice by reading together the words on the screen and in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, our quest for truth, in celebration of the life we share together. And now please rise as you are able to sing the doxology.
Oh my, we're off to a good start. We come to religious community from many paths and with diverse needs. If you have come here seeking comfort, may your pain be soothed. If you have come here looking for answers, may you find new questions. And if you have come here seeking purpose, may your call be awakened. If you have come here hoping to build a new way, may the path open before you. It's good to be together again. Those words are by Michelle LaGrave. Please rise and body your spirit and join me in singing hymn number 155, Circle Round for Freedom. So today, and the next 2 Sundays, we're going to be sort of exploring the history of racism and how we got where we are today. And so the story I chose for this Sunday is called The Patchwork Path, the Quilt to Freedom. In the times of slavery, the enslaved people made quilts, and there were messages in the quilts. So this is the Patchwork Path, the quilt map to freedom. My name is Hannah. I was a slave on a Georgia plantation. The year I turned 10, Mama taught me to make a special quilt. I learned how to stitch together pieces of old cloth to make different patterns. But Mama wanted me to learn more than just how to sew. While we stitched, she told me a secret. Each pattern holds a special meaning. Hannah, this quilt will show you everything you need to know how to run to freedom. And she and Papa thought about freedom all the time. I dared to think about it too, especially after Mama taught me the quilt patterns. Soon after, Master sold my sister Mary to a far-off plantation. Mama passed away. Papa said it was her heart that broke. Sometimes when I miss Mama and Mary so hard and my heart was close to splitting, I remember Mama's words. The monkey wrench turns the wagon wheel toward Canada on Bear's Paw Trail to the crossroads. And once they got to the crossroads, they dug a log cabin on the ground. Shoefly told them to dress up in cotton and satin bow ties and to go to Cathedral Church to get married and exchange double rings. Flying geese stay on the drunkard's path and follow the stars. And that was the quilt's code. So one day in spring, Papa told me to air out Mama's monkey wrench quilt. This pattern warns the others that you and I are leaving, that we are gathering our tools to go. It will be a long and difficult journey, but Mama is up in heaven watching over us. Tomorrow night, storms will come and we'll run. So get your quilt, tie the corners together, and slip a little bread inside. I shook with excitement, but wished Mary were with us. I wondered what it was like where she lived now, and if at night she looked up at the sky toward Mama. Papa was a wagon driver. He drove the mules to other plantations. He kept his eyes open, coming and going for miles and miles around. He memorized the roads, streams, and the dark woods. He knew where runaway slaves could hide. The night before we left, Papa tried to calm me. I touched a finger to the wagon wheel square on my quilt. I knew we were meant to pack things for the journey as though we were loading a wagon. I also knew there would be no wagon, that we would have to run. We stepped out into the worst rainstorm I'd ever seen. Papa, do we have to leave now? Yes, the dogs won't be able to follow our scent. No work in the fields tomorrow, so Master won't miss us. In the drenching rain, he led me through the dark woods. Did I hear the hoofs of galloping horses? We hid behind fallen logs. I shivered from the wet cold. I thought I could hear a dog bark and a stick snap, and my stomach tightened. Would they catch us and take us back? And what would happen to us then? Early the next morning, we came to a church at the edge of town. With a storm like this, the members here will be expecting runaway slaves, he said. We crept inside. We hid in a secret place beneath the floor. Daylight slanted through the holes cut into the wooden planks. That cross shape is from Africa, Papa told me. It means life, death, and rebirth. I prayed that we would be reborn as free people in Canada. The soft voices of our protectors drifted down to us as we waited for nightfall. Papa's lantern cast strange shadows on the walls of the tunnel that led from the church to the river. Papa told me that pirates had made tunnels. We followed the riverbed upstream, and the cold water soaked my shoes. My toes felt like icy, hard pebbles. And sometimes Papa lifted the bluff climbed the bluff to look for horsemen with dogs and whips. Oh, my knees ached, my legs ached. How far was Canada anyway? And just as I saw the sun rose, I saw a flock of geese high above. They're flying north, said Papa. We will follow them. We walked all night after night, and hid during the day. And when I felt I couldn't lift my legs, I thought about Mama and her quilt code. She kept me going. I had never left the plantation or seen anything but fields and marsh. I could not believe my eyes when we climbed high into the mountains and saw the view. Surely we could see Canada from here, but Papa said, no, we're still far off. We need to find a way down off this mountain. A little further, I found the way. Look, Papa, there it is. There are bear tracks, just like on my quilt. We followed the bear's paw trail to the valley below. I hoped we wouldn't catch up to the bears. The tracks led us to water and an empty, safe cave to sleep in. Mama's quilt pattern worked just fine. Sometimes we had something to eat, and sometimes we went hungry. We considered ourselves lucky when there were berries to pick. Bees stung me when I tried to get honey from a hive. If Papa caught a fish from the stream, we enjoyed a feast. Spring turned to summer, and now even the nights were warm. We kept walking in a zigzag pattern, like the drunkard's path on the quilt. I remember Mama had told me once that bad luck follows a straight line. I knew the zigzag pattern would make it harder for Master's men to follow our trail. Papa pointed to the shoe fly pattern on my quilt. He told me that if anybody came after us, we should scatter like flies. Later, we could meet back up at the spot where we separated. That way, they can only catch one of us, or perhaps none. If I get caught, you just keep going, Hannah. One lucky day, we found a safe house. Papa knew to look for the lantern glowing in the window. The people who live here will help us, he said. How wonderful to get clean clothes and sleep on a real bed for the first time in months. Hot bread and baked pork never tasted so fine. We washed ourselves and slept all day and night. The next morning, the good man and his wife told us they were Quakers. They believed that slavery was wrong, and they said they would help us as much as they could. Next, they told us what lay ahead on our way to the place called Cleveland, to the crossroads, and I listened close. 2 days later, the man carried us northward for miles as we lay hidden in the bottom of his wagon, covered by blankets and straw. And when night fell, we struck out walking again. I felt rested and ready to go get freedom, but freedom was still a far way off. The nights grew longer and colder by the time we reached the great stretch of water at the crossroads. It looked like an ocean, but our Quaker friends told us it was Lake Erie. Freedom is on the other side, Papa said. But how will we ever get across? What if we have come all this way just to get stumped so close? Don't worry, somebody will look for this sign, Papa said, and he drew a log cabin pattern in the sand near the shore. We hid in a nearby graveyard and waited. A free black man saw our sign and looked around for us. We rushed out of hiding, and the man took us to a big cave that looked like a cathedral. He gave us clean clothes, and I got a crisp new bonnet to wear. As Papa tied the strings into a big bow, I thought, the bow tie square on my quilt. We dressed up like we were going to church, and with our new clothes, we looked like we were free. The man told us, you've always been free on the inside. Now your old life is over, and you'll soon be free on the outside too. And that night, Papa rang a small bell that the man had given him, and we waited for a signal, a sign. We heard a faint chime as somebody rang back, double rings. A riverboat captain took us on his boat, and we set out across the water. The North Star shone brightly in the night sky, and we had followed the stars to freedom. As dawn spread pink across the water, I saw Canada. It was autumn now, and the trees with their red and gold leaves looked like they were on fire. What a beautiful place. We felt truly reborn. I hugged Papa tight. I spent our first winter making a new quilt, using pieces of cloth from our old slave clothes and some new fabric too. A big one this time, with all the patterns of the quilt code, just like Mama had taught me. I left one square empty because I missed my sister. When Mary is with us again, I'll finish the quilt. Until then, I'll pray for her and dream about us being free. And that's the story.
Each week, we share a portion of our Sunday offering with a social justice cause outside our church walls. This month, we are sharing the loose change collecting for school supplies. In February, we will be collecting for school supplies for Hobart kids in need with New Day and Hobart Methodist. Donations in the baskets will go to sustaining the mission of our congregation, and donations in the cups will go to build the school supplies for Hobart children. Can I have 4? I guess so. For your prayers, your presence, your service, and your gifts, we are truly grateful.
In the center of our service and in the center of our lives, we pause to honor the silences of the world. We open our hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain, and the soft, gentle coming of love. I want to share with you a poem written by Alice Walker. It's called Calling All Grandmothers. We have to live differently or we will die in the same old ways. Therefore, I call on all grandmothers everywhere on the planet to rise and take your place in the leadership of the world. Come out of the kitchen, out of the fields, out of the beauty parlors, out of the television. Step forward and assume the role for which you were created, to lead humanity to health, happiness, and sanity. I call on all the grandmothers of earth and every person who possesses the grandmother spirit of a respect for life and protection of the young to rise and lead. The life of our species depends on it. And I call on all men of earth to gracefully and gratefully stand aside and let us do so. May it be so. I now invite you to light a candle of memory or hope, or just sit quietly as the music holds you in a meditative space. There is a weeping well here. Would you pick up a stone and drop it in? This is because we have a lot to lament right now. And so you're invited to dedicate a stone to something deep, a deep sorrow in your heart, or dedicate a stone for freedom and hope that all people will be free. Okay. This last candle is for those of you at home. A little wax on my feet.
Joys and sorrows are a time to share personal joys that you are celebrating so that we can celebrate with you as a community. It's also a time to share personal sorrows that weigh on our hearts so that we can support one another in our times of sorrow or grief. Keep this in mind that this part of our service excludes our online members, friends, and visitors. So Carla's going to come around with the microphone, introduce yourself, and make a comment.
Meditation on breathing.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. I'll breathe in peace. Breathe out. I'll breathe out love. Breathe in. I'll breathe in peace. Breathe out. I'll breathe out love. Breathe in peace. Breathe out. I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
I happened to find a video of Nikki Giovanni reading her poem, Quilting the Black-Eyed Pea, Going to Mars. So instead of our reading, we're going to watch Nikki Giovanni.
I wrote a poem, Quilting the Black-Eyed Pea, We're Going to Mars. We're going to Mars for the same reason Marco Polo rocketed to China, for the same reason Columbus trimmed his sails on a dream of spices, for the very same reason Shackleton was enchanted with penguins, for the reason we fall in love. It's the only adventure. We're going to Mars because Perry couldn't go to the North Pole without Matthew Henson, because Chicago couldn't be a city without Jean-Baptiste de Sable, because George Washington Carver and his peanut were the right partners for Booker T. It's a life-seeking thing. We're going to Mars because whatever is wrong with us will not get right with us. So we journey forth carrying the same baggage, but every now and then leaving one little bitty thing behind, maybe drop torturing hunchbacks here, maybe drop lynching Billy Budd there, maybe not whipping Uncle Tom to death, maybe resisting global war, one day looking for prejudice to slip, one day looking for hatred to tumble by the wayside, one day maybe the whole community will no longer be vested in who sleeps with whom. Maybe one day the Jewish community will be at rest, the Christian community will be content, the Muslim community will be at peace, and all the rest of us will get great meals on holy days and learn new songs and sing in harmony. We're going to Mars because it gives us a reason to change. If Mars came here, it would be ugly. Nations would band together to hunt down and kill Martians. And being the stupid, undeserving life forms that we are, we would also hunt down and kill what would be termed Martian sympathizers. As if the fugitive slave law wasn't bad enough then, as if the so-called war on terrorism isn't pitiful now. When do we learn, and what does it take to teach us? Things cannot be what we want, when we want, as we want. Other people have ideas and inputs, and why won't they leave Rap Brown alone? The future is ours to take. We're going to Mars because we have the hardware to do it. We have the rockets and the fuel and the money and the stuff. And the only reason NASA is holding back is they don't know if what they send out will be what they get back. So let me slow this down. Mars is 1 year of travel to get there, plus 1 year of living on Mars, plus 1 year to return to Earth, equals 3 years of Earthlings being in a tight space, going to an unknown place with an unsure welcome awaiting them. tired muscles, unknown and unusual foods, harsh conditions, and no known landmarks to keep them human. Only a hope and a prayer that they will be shadowed beneath a benign hand. And there is no historical precedent for that except this. The trip to Mars can only be understood through Black Americans, I say. The trip to Mars can only be understood through Black Americans. The people who were captured and enslaved immediately recognized the men who came, who chained and whipped them and herded them into ships so tightly packed there was no room to turn, no privacy to respect, no tears to fall without landing on another. We're not kind and gentle and concerned for the state of their souls, no. The men with whips and chains were understood to be killers, feared to be cannibals, known to be sexual predators. The captured knew they were in trouble in an unknown place without communicable abilities with a violent and capricious species. But they could look out and still see signs of home. They could still smell the sweetness in the air. They could see the clouds floating above the land they loved. But there reached a point when the captured could not only not look back, they had no idea which way back might be. There was nothing in the middle of the deep blue water to indicate which way home might be. And it was that moment when a decision had to be made. Do they continue forward with a resolve to see this thing through, or do they embrace the waters and find another world? In the belly of the ship, a moan was heard, and someone picked up that moan, and a song was raised, and that song would offer comfort and hope and tell the stories. When we go to Mars, it's the same thing. It's middle passage. When the rocket red glares, the astronauts will be able to see themselves pull away from Earth. As the ship goes deeper, they will see a sparkle of blue. And then one day, not only will they not see Earth, they won't know which way to look. And that's why NASA needs to call Black America. They need to ask us, how did you calm your fears? How were you able to decide you were human, even when everything said you were not? How did you find the comfort in the face of the improbable to make the world you came to your world? How was your soul able to look back and wonder? And we will tell them what to do. To successfully go to Mars and back, you will need a song. Take some Billie Holiday for the sad days and some Charlie Parker for the happy ones, but always keep at least one good spiritual for comfort. You will need a slice or two of meatloaf, and if you can manage it, you will, and if you can manage it, some fried chicken in a shoebox with a moist lemon pound cake. A bottle of beer, because no one should go that far without a beer, and maybe a six-pack, so that if there is life on Mars, you can share. Popcorn for the celebration when you land, while you wait on your land legs to kick in. And as you climb down the ladder from your spaceship to the Martian surface, look to your left, and there you'll see a smiling community quilting a black-eyed pea, watching you descend. Thank you.
So there's a sermon in that poem. So slavery is white history. How they survived is Black history. In his book, Stamped from the Beginning, Ibram X. Kendi narrates the entire history of racist ideas. The book's about this thick. He traces it back from its origins in 15th century Europe through colonial times when the British settlers carried racist ideas to America, all the way to the 21st century and current debates about what is happening on our streets. Racist theological ideas during America's first century were fundamental to the sanctioning of slavery and acceptable to Christian churches. Cotton Mather, the grandson of two Puritan preachers, John Cotton and, I've forgotten his name, I didn't put it in there, Mayers, preached racial inequality in their sermons and writings that were read widely in the colonies and in Europe, where the progenitors of the scientific revolution and then the Enlightenment were racializing and whitening Europeans. They were racializing and whitening freedom, civilization, rationalization, and beauty. The outlawing of chattel slavery in 1865 brought on racial progress, but legalizing Jim Crow led to the progression of racist policies, and in the late 19th century, outlawing Jim Crow didn't happen until 1964. I was a freshman in high school. It brought about racial progress, outlawing Jim Crow, then the legalization of superficially unintentional discrimination brought on another progression of racial policies in the late 20th century. So Kendi asks, what caused U.S. Senator John C. Calhoun in 1837 to refer to slavery as a positive good when he knew full well slavery's torturous horrors? What caused the editor of the Atlanta newspaper, Henry W. Grady, to produce the racist idea of separate but equal? What caused think tankers after the election of Barack Obama to produce the racist idea of a post-racial society? What caused the racist immigration and gerrymandering policies in our current administration? And what, in God's name, caused Donald Trump to post a racist AI-produced video portraying the Obamas as apes? This Black History Month, may we focus on strength, cultural creation, resistance, and the thriving of Black people in defiance of that system. Let us not define Black history solely by victimization, by the enduring strength and contributions made in spite of centuries of oppression. And may we never forget that the systems, laws, and perpetration of slavery were instituted and upheld by white slavery, white society. It is clear how we got here, and it's time that we came to terms with our history. The first step towards unraveling, dismantling systemic white supremacy is to have the courage to face the truth of our history honestly and with deep humility. It must be done before we can move to fixing, and it is the work of our lifetime. It is our work to do. But first we have to stop being white saviors and start being good neighbors. Minneapolis the whole city has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not surprised. We are witnessing in Minneapolis what it truly means to love your neighbor as yourself. Brian Stevenson was interviewed on Friday. I was so thrilled to find it as I was trying to search for wisdom, because I'm white and I don't have this wisdom to share with you. He said about the ancestors, his Black ancestors, forebears, that foreparents, he calls them, that they refused to be governed by fear and anger, and they insisted on something better. He was interviewed by the host, Natasha Alford, on Masters of the Game, which is a Black-owned network. I highly encourage you to watch it. It's about 50 minutes long. The Masters of the Game seeks to have powerful, wide-ranging conversation from Montgomery, Alabama, a city at the center of America's ongoing struggle for truth, memory, and justice. So Brian Stevenson said that he began worrying about a decade ago about that we were moving into an era where we're retreating from the rule of law. A decade ago. And he said it was that the current court, our current court, would be unlikely to pass something as bold and as disruptive as Brown versus Board of Education on the behalf of disfavored people. Well, and I think I said last week, Ronald Reagan could not be nominated in this climate today. A decade ago, the Equal Justice Initiative, which was founded and is the executive director is Brian Stevenson, they realized that they needed to step out of the public domain to engage people narratively with the history of America and the identity of America, what it truly means to be free and to advance justice and to create a better future, better than our past. So he said, thank goodness, we didn't start now. We have a decade of projects behind us. He said, we haven't realized about the legacy of slavery and how impactful it was and how unhealthy it was for our entire nation. Whether you were in Mississippi, South Carolina, or Minnesota, enslaving over 10 million black people for over 246 years did something really horrific and unhealthy to the American experience. And because we've never confronted it, Stevenson said, its legacy manifests itself everywhere. Delaware was a slave state, but they didn't participate in the rebellion in the United States against the United States. So the Emancipation Proclamation signed by President Lincoln was written for the rebelling states of the Confederacy. The enslaved people of Delaware, Kentucky, and Maryland were informed that they would not be emancipated. And after the Civil War, those states felt like they were going to be able to continue with their practice of slavery, of enslavement. What happened was, when they found out, was a deep-seated resentment to emancipation, which then began to manifest itself in racist policies, Jim Crow, and segregation. Stevenson, the interviewer was asking him wonderful questions, and he spoke about his great-grandfather who was enslaved and still held a hope for freedom that allowed him to sustain and endure. He said that hope is rooted in the idea that you cannot allow the experiences that other people subject you to define you. Even though his great-grandfather was enslaved, he never stopped believing that he deserved to be free. The 4 million people who were emancipated had every right to want to get even. They want retribution, to hate, but instead they chose community. They built churches and schools, and they created families that were nurtured by love, and they rejected that option to hate. They believed that there was something better waiting for them, which is true right now, he said, for everyone, not just black and brown people, but all of us. When people ask him, when will it end, and what can I do, Stevenson says, learning is an action item. When someone has diabetes, they don't ask, when will it end? They understand they will have to treat it, and before it will get better, and they will also understand they will have to do things to stay healthy for the rest of their life. In the conversation between the interviewer and Stevenson, they talked about how people are afraid of what they will lose. But Stevenson said basically, I think this really struck me. We do need to attend protests. We do need to speak out. We need to do all of those things. But more importantly, it's the narrative that we need to confront. He claims that the greatest evil of slavery beyond its horrors is the narrative that was created by the people to justify it. The false narrative that black people are less human, less worthy, so that they could be treated as property. At its core, this false narrative spared them from facing the cruelty of their own actions, their inhumanity, their indecent, unchristian behaviors, the immorality that was their existence as slave owners, and also those who benefited from slavery. They wanted to believe they were good people. It is this narrative that continues, began back with our Puritan forebears, and that continues now, today. Stevenson said the North won the Civil War, but the South won the narrative. So Stevenson wants to save everybody, all of us. And he has these teaching legacy sites that they began working on a decade ago. The Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, the Freedom Monument Sculpture Park. And now they have a hotel and convening space if you want to take a group. Who wants to go with me? I want to go there. There's also a Jim Crow Museum in Big Rapids, Michigan. We could field trip there It's not that far. We could write for a grant from the UU Funding for Justice program to bring a traveling exhibit from the Jim Crow Museum to Northwest Indiana. Stevenson said that he was struck when he went to South Africa about the Apartheid Museum and how it's functioned to help people fully understand the harms of apartheid. And the same was true in Berlin with the Holocaust Museum. You cannot graduate from high school there without understanding and learning the full history of the Holocaust. We didn't have that here. We have nothing like that here. Instead of teaching our children and adults about the harms of slavery and other shameful parts of our history, America is trying to erase that history. We must be committed to creating spaces that can take people on a journey that is truth-telling, so that when you go to a museum, you will say, never again can we tolerate this kind of bigotry and mean it. When I was in Chattanooga, I served a congregation there. I took classes at UTC, and I took an African American literature class taught by poet and author Professor Earl Braggs. That literature class was taught chronologically, so essentially it was actually a class in racism, the history of racism. So before I left Chattanooga to go to Gainesville, I asked Dr. Braggs if he would help me educate my congregation. I wanted him to preach for the congregation, but he said, nope, you got to do that. And he outlined it for me. He outlined it from the making of a slave, where their expression was removed, their name, they were given a new religion, to the Harlem Renaissance, where there was an explosion of expression. So that's what we're going to do over the next 2 Sundays. When I was at the Gainesville church, one of the members, the African-American members, was a professor at the University of Florida, and she had been an active member of SNCC, working alongside John Lewis, Gwendolyn Zohara Simmons. The SNCC is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, whose mandate was to continue mobilizing students to challenge racial segregation. She was arrested along with the other Spelman students for participating in the lunch counter demonstration at Lester Maddox Pickwick Restaurant, and she spent a night in jail. So I knew I couldn't tell this congregation that had about a dozen African American members that I couldn't get up there and teach them about racism. So I invited them to join me, to help me. I said, I need your help. And we spent weeks planning, and we ended up with an entire month. We brought in Black artists and musicians. We had a special speaker. We did the 3 series of the slavery, the Jim Crow, and Reconstruction, and then the Celebrating Black Lives. And they also had borrowed an exhibit from the university that they had in their sanctuary on the walls. So I can't replicate that experience for you, but I can show you some of the slides. And so I just want you guys to run through those slides real quickly. If you're interested in learning more about it, I'm interested in perhaps having a class and going through that history. So what I did was, the Equal Justice Initiative has a calendar that you can order for $5, and it's every day of the year. There's something that happened in the racial justice history. And so I put it chronologically, and then I invited people to read. We had a long line of people from the community and the church reading the story. So it starts with the slave ship, and we can just go through. You can see some of their stories behind every one of these slides. We don't have time for today. These are really fascinating stories. I mean, it really helps you understand how they survived and what they were put through, the horrors. This is really interesting, the Negro Act of 1740. Slaves could not gather without white supervision. Slaves could not be taught to read and write. They could not carry guns. They were not allowed to dress above the condition of a slave. Created harsher punishments for disobeying the law, fined slave owners who were cruel to slaves. Most important to colonists, it established tighter control. Then there was the Stono Rebellion. There were a lot of rebellions. People were killed. And then we have Harriet Tubman, and we know her story a little bit. This man led a rebellion and was killed. He was a preacher. Nat Turner's insurrection. That's a quilt. And there's our Unitarian abolitionist, William Lord Garrison. They were on a long journey. There's a whole story about how they escaped slavery, enslavement, and the Dred Scott case. So I think that's good. Thank you. If you're interested, send me an email. Talk to me after the service. I'd like to invite anybody who's interested to join me in creating a task force to educate ourselves, that we might educate the community. Education is action. We can do this. We can do this together. We need to help people understand. Stevenson believes that when we can understand and we learn about the harms of enslavement, that our hearts will crack open. And there will be sort of a redemption, a transformation. And then we can never, ever go back. Once you have that understanding, we will never be able to accept and tolerate oppression again. So I'll close with these words that Brian Stevenson, when the interviewer asked him, what do you say to black people who say, we're tired? Stevenson replied, I get it, it's exhausting, but in 2026, if you are trying to advance this movement for justice, that asserting tired isn't enough. 10 million black people were enslaved. They had no control over their schedules. They had no control over their bodies. They were forced to labor from sunup to sundown. They were brutalized. They were threatened. They were menaced. They were humiliated. And yet they found the energy and they found the strength and the character to love in the midst of agony, to give their children love, he said, think about what it would be like to give birth to a child and not know if that child would be sold away at any moment. It would be easy to say, I'm not going to love that child. It's just going to break my heart. He wrote, but our enslaved foreparents loved children who were the product of sexual violence. They were unwilling to give in to the fatigue and exhaustion that enslavement created. Those who were terrorized by violence had to leave lands that they owned during Reconstruction. They had to forfeit their wealth, which they could have given to their children and grandchildren, and they had to start over. Hence, this is how we have the wealth gap. Stevenson believes with all his heart that we can create together a better America, better than it's ever been, if we can confront that narrative. He said, if you are with us, you should be tired. And that means that there is no comfortable or convenient way to do justice in our country. He said we need an era of truth and justice in America. We need an era of truth and reconciliation, truth and repair, truth and restoration, and truth and redemption. Our UU faith calls us to help redeem the soul of America, even when it is inconvenient and uncomfortable. I hope you'll join me. I know you're doing a lot of work already. I just feel like we need to get to the core and use education as action. And so, please rise in body or spirit and help me sing When I Am Frightened. It's in your teal hymnal, and it's also on the screen.
frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me, sing to me quietly? Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me, stand by me willingly? Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me, comfort me tenderly? Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love.
I invite you now to join me in reciting the words on your screen and in your order of service to accompany our extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of commitment, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
These words are by Reverend James Galinsky. Our faith, like a light, illuminates the path before us so that we can face hurt with love, cultivate compassion, live humbly in community, and confront despair with the awe of life. Though our flame is extinguished, our faith shines bright before us. Go in peace and blessed be. Sunday. Join us for soup.